It's Sunday, March 13th, 2022. This is All About Your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape. And I'm back in the office for the mixtape. You got the Gary V wall behind me that has grown with stuff. I don't know if you can see all that, but a lot more stuff on that. I love that wall. It embodies who I am. It's gifts from the boys. You got Thanos back there. You've got other Avengers. I just love that wall. So I'm glad to be back in front of the wall. Trying a new setup of recording the weekly mixtape and weekend review on Friday. So there is the chance that by the time this airs on Sunday, there may have been something that happened Friday in the afternoon, Saturday, that won't make it into the mixtape. We'll catch it. If it's that important, I can do an additional recording and add it to it after the fact. But going to make sure that this gets done so that way this can also show up on the podcast. So as you may have seen on All About Your Benjamins today, we'll get to the headlines here in a second, but a lot of exciting news I want to share as we kick off. If you saw this on All About Your Benjamins on Friday, the Pursuit podcast, the Friday show I've been doing for a little while, has actually been spun off. It's become its own channel called Pursuit, but it's PRST. You should subscribe to it if the Pursuit podcast resonates with you, because the concept of pursuing passion, creating a life of minimal regret, and just making our lives happier and more fulfilled is just something I can't quit thinking about or talking about. And it's become a passion of mine to try to inspire and encourage and also give people the resources to take more control over their life. I believe that we have way more control over our destiny and the path that we go on than a lot of us realize. And I want to try to help bring that to the forefront and then also help people pursue that if that's what's best for them. So because of that, Pursuit needs its own space to grow. So I launched Pursuit Podcast. PRST again is the podcast, just like the sweatshirt. And that's actually going to be made up of 3 shows. You're going to have the Friday show called The Pursuit, the PRST. That will be every Friday, same format, same type of conversations. There will also be a daily show, Monday through Thursday, called The Daily Pursuit. Now, this is meant to be a 5 to 7 minute episode designed to make you think, to encourage, to inspire, or just be what you need that episode to be for that day. Really looking forward to that. And then periodically, I will have guests that will join me. They may be guests sharing their pursuit. They may have an expertise that is valuable to us as we go on our own personal pursuit. But that show is called On Our Pursuit. The podcast channel is live. It's filled with 4 episodes already. Last week's Pursuit is on there. The Purpose of On-Ramp and My Pursuit. There is a Daily Pursuit episode just to tell you what it's about. That will actually start up for another couple weeks. I want to plan that out and make sure I have a good amount of episodes ready to go. And there are 2 On Our Pursuits. One with Tyler, who is my video director, my creative genius behind all of the podcast videos you see. So I interview him about his life. And then Carl Paoli, who is a genius, if you ask me. I loved our conversation. It was well over an hour. Could have gone a lot longer. Both of those are up. So Surf's Up with Tyler Gelbreth and Designing Life with Carl Paoli are both on our podcast episode, or on our Pursuit podcast, and those are already up. There's a YouTube channel for Pursuit as well that is going to be where everything lives. In addition to the short videos that I've been creating, the first 2 were of Roman and Leo. I have the film for one on my wife, Ange. I just need to record the audio and put those 2 pieces together to create her story. But I'm really excited about this initiative. All About Your Benjamins is not going anywhere. Don't worry. The next episode podcast will continue to go every 2 weeks with my dad. The weekend review video, the audio from that will be on every weekend. You can catch that. If you don't watch the video, you can listen to it as well. And I'm going to bring back the monthly interview with somebody from the financial space and bringing All About Your Benjamins back to personal finance as the focus. There will still be a little bit of conversation that ties into Pursuit because that's just who I am and I can't get away from it. But it's going to go back to the genesis of what All About Your Benjamins was, which was a personal finance blog. I may not write as much, but there will be tons of resources, tons of conversations. And I actually have a couple mini-series podcasts with some friends that will be adding to the All About Your Benjamins show as well. So really excited about kind of having 2 directions to go. They are running parallel. My goal with Pursuit is to not only inspire and encourage people to pursue their passions, but bring my expertise as a financial advisor to that realm. So there are people who talk about mindset and pursuing your passions and creating a better life. They talk about that concept. There are people who talk about personal finance and how to make your budget work and how to do everything. But I don't know of anybody who's bringing the 2 worlds together. And I feel like that is where I fit in. I can talk about pursuing your passions and experimenting in life because I've lived it. I have friends who are doing it. I understand it, and I just want to make people aware of it. And if you are aware of it, and that's the direction you want to go, then I have the expertise to help you figure out how do you make your finances fit into all of it? Because financial planning and building your finances in a pursuit of passion is different than building your finances if you're a W-2 employee. Not one better than the other, they're just different. And that's what I want to do, is I want to bridge those two sides together. So I wanted to start this episode out with letting you know about all those things going on. Obviously, I'm very excited about it. If you're interested in more in Pursuit and you just want to know where to go, one place to see everything, head to lifespursuit.co. That's lifespRST.co. And before long, it will just be PRST.co. I'm in the transition of getting that website moved over to me, or that domain moved over to me. But for now, it's lifespursuit.co. I'll have that forward to the new website when it's ready. But that's going to be your go-to page for everything that comes out content-wise on Pursuit. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And we're going to start with, we know that the war continues on over in Ukraine and Russia. We know what that's doing to oil prices. We see companies coming out saying they're not going to be doing business with Russia anymore. So we know all of that. There's not a lot more to dive into on that. So we're going to move past the war and the impact it's having. The market is kind of unsure of what's going to happen. But a byproduct of that is inflation hitting a 40-year high. So we were already at highs. It went up to 7.9% inflation. And there are charts floating around that actually show a different picture, that inflation is a lot higher in other areas. You look at food, you look at fuel, you look at new cars, even going to purchasing clothes. Inflation is here, and we have already known that. I was optimistic that I thought it would leave a little bit sooner, but this war is going to continue it on, especially as we see oil well over $100, and who knows how long that's going to last. So inflation is at 40-year highs. I was on a local news station earlier this week talking about ways to combat that. What can you do with your budget? And I tried to give real-life answers, not the textbook answers that most financial advisors are going to give you. So I'll link to that in the mixtape down below. You can check that interview out. But a few good points I think there were a few good points, obviously, to share with everybody. So inflation is one topic. The Federal Reserve is coming out next week. They have their meeting. Expectations are that they're going to raise rates to try to keep up with inflation. They're kind of in a little of a tough spot because markets typically don't like rates going up. The market is down. We're in correction territory or beyond in some individual stocks, but inflation's going up. So what will the Fed do? Will they raise? Will they raise as much? That'll be coming out. I'm doing a Twitter Spaces with some folks on Monday to talk about what does it mean, especially focusing on kind of the bond market. Bonds don't like rising rates. As interest rates go up, bond prices go down. So we've been in a long-term bull market for bonds. Bonds have not only saved us when markets were down, but they've actually made us money. And will that continue if rates continue to go back up? How do you position bonds in your portfolio? Do you make changes? That's what that Spaces is going to be about. I'm bringing more of a financial advisor's lens to that conversation rather than a tactical investor. The other gentleman who's joining me with the host is more of a tactical investor. So it'll be a good conversation between two people who have different approaches and different goals to the way that we're handling bonds and portfolios. So tune into that on Twitter if you're interested. All right, so the next one. The Senate passed a $1.5 trillion package to help spending with Ukraine and in the war. That goes off to President Biden. It makes me think of a Tupac line I've seen people throw around. I don't necessarily agree with it, but he says they got monies for war but can't feed the poor. And obviously, as a power and a leader in the world, we have a duty to help out others. But it is kind of interesting how we can raise these funds to go do that, but we can't help people in our own country. Now's not the time to do that. We've got to help handle what's going on there so it doesn't get bigger. But I'm reminded of that quote as I've seen it flown around a lot lately. And I don't know if it's necessarily fair to use that right now, but it is an interesting thing that when times are calmer, maybe it's something to go back and reflect on of, how is it so easy to raise money to go fight a war, but we can't fight the war on poverty or other things that are on in our own country. So just an interesting sidebar there. Now, the next one in the Week in Review articles is President Biden issued an executive order around cryptocurrencies, crypto assets. Obviously, I've spent time in the crypto world. I've been investing in it personally. I have clients who invest in it. I spent time at a startup in the space. So this is an interesting area for me. I think some people initially think that this is a bad thing. I, for one, think it's a good thing. Now, do I think that government needs to regulate everything within crypto? No. The beauty of crypto and the crypto purists don't want government to touch it all. And their belief is government really can't impact it because of the way that it's set up. It's decentralized. It lives on a network of computers across the globe. No one entity can really stop it from growing and being used. However, the government can do some things to make it harder or put some regulation onto it. Money has to get into the crypto space. It has to get out of the crypto space right now. There are ways for them to try to tax it and regulate it of some sorts. The reason I don't view this as a bad thing is if we as crypto investors really want this asset class to be taken seriously and be adopted by the mainstream, we do need to have some regulation. It is the Wild West. There are a lot of scams that go on, and scams go on in traditional dollars as well. Money laundering goes on with US dollars as well. So it's everywhere. But you look at some of the NFT rug pulls, you look at people being scammed out of their crypto, and the fact that you can't go chase that back down like you might in traditional banking makes it a little bit different. If we want this to be accepted, if we want this to have a chance to continue to grow and get beyond the people who are already using it, then I do think some government regulation is warranted. I think some protections for investors are warranted. And I also think there needs to be some treatment of crypto assets like traditional assets. Case in point, crypto currently still doesn't have a wash sale rule, meaning you can't, a wash sale says if you sell an investment for a loss, you can't buy that same investment back for 30 days and recognize that loss. So for tax planning, you can use losses to offset gains. If you sell Apple at a loss, you can't buy Apple back for 30 days and keep that loss. It gets negated. With crypto, you can do that. You can sell Bitcoin at a loss and buy it right back in, establish a new cost basis for growth in the future, and now you have this loss to offset gains in the future. It's a great planning tool, and as long as it's there, we as advisors should be advising and using it. However, it should be treated like another investment if we want it to be respected in that same way. So while I don't want to see a lot of regulation, and I don't think that the U.S. government can regulate everything away from crypto, because, again, crypto is universal. It is across the globe. It is more meaningful to other countries from a currency standpoint than it is in the U.S. For the U.S., crypto, and especially Bitcoin and Ethereum, are really investment uses. But there are other countries where their dollar is not strong, or the government is corrupt, and Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these other crypto assets are much more valuable, and because it's not in the US, they can't stop it. So I don't think that this is the end of crypto. The people that are saying that crypto is going to die because of this, I believe, are wrong. I do think this may slow the growth some. Interestingly enough, you saw the price of Bitcoin go up when the executive order was signed. Again, I think this is not investment advice, but I think for the established crypto assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum in particular, I think this is a positive for them. They're the ones that have been around the longest. They're the ones that have a use case. They're the ones that people know. I think, for lack of a better term, and what they call it, excuse my French, the shit coins out there, the ones that are speculative, that are no use case, that are just held up by a community, they may be under more scrutiny, which could be a negative for those. So it may warrant, depending on what your crypto asset portfolio looks like, a review of it in this new light and understanding what the executive order says. But the executive order is really just to put more scrutiny on the space, look to getting more consumer protections in there. And they're also considering adding a crypto dollar for US as well. So again, I'm still extremely bullish on the space. I love what's being built. The opportunity that it presents, I'm all in on. And I don't think this is a bad thing. I think ultimately this is a good thing for adoption going forward and it staying around. And I think there's some things that need to be cleaned up in the crypto space. So just wanted to address that. The next three we'll go through really quick. Amazon this week announced a 20-for-1 stock split and a big buyback of their stock. I wanted to highlight the 20-for-1 stock split. When there's a stock split, so basically everybody who has one share of Amazon is now going to get 20 shares. So for every one, you get 20. They reduce the price, so it's $3,000 or $2,000, whatever it might be. I think it's going to drop down to $100 and some dollars. I don't know the prices, but basically you divide that price by 20. That's the new price. So the market cap, how much Amazon is worth, doesn't really change. It's just more shares at a lower price. It's just basic math. So the valuation of the company should not be changing. Yet when they announced this, you saw a big spike in Amazon. And part of it is going to be probably because they're buying back shares. When a company buys back their shares, they're taking the number of shares that are out in the open market and bringing it back onto their balance sheet, which reduces the number of tradable shares, which should lift the price some. So that makes a little bit of sense. But I also think that there is the behavioral side of investing that plays into this. So the thought behind it is, and why investors may be jumping into Amazon pre-split, thinking that the price will run, is that you may have people who want to invest in Amazon, but they see the price of one share and they're not able to do it, or it's too intimidating to pay thousands of dollars for one share of a company. There's the ability to buy fractional shares on some platforms, meaning you can buy $100 of Amazon and have 0.00001 or whatever it might be of the stock, but not every platform has it. When you see an investment in a company that you use every day, you know it's done real well, it was way too expensive for you to buy one share of on a dollar price, not expensive on necessarily the valuation, but just the dollar that you would pay, and now all of a sudden you see it's more attainable. You could buy 10 shares or you could buy 20 shares instead of what it would be for the one. Now it becomes easier to buy. So there is a little bit of psychology of now you may have people who jump into Amazon because they feel like they can afford it, which would drive up the price. Remains to be seen, but I wanted to highlight the psychology of investing and how what we see that happens in the market doesn't always make sense. There should not have been a big pop. Amazon shouldn't have run just on the stock split news. Again, there's some other news that may have helped it, but I do think some of the rise is the play, the behavioral side of more people might try to buy Amazon as an individual stock because now they feel like they can afford it, even though it hasn't changed in valuation because there's more shares floating around. So wanted to highlight that. Baseball. I'm not a big baseball fan. We go down to the Indianapolis Indians maybe once a year. But the MLB players and the owners were on a strike, and it looks like they are agreeing to a new labor contract. Have no idea what the details, but if you're a baseball fan, you probably already know this. But it's good to see that back on. I just feel like the more things we can get that makes life feel normal as we run up on 2 years to when the world shut down. You've got March Madness coming up. It was around this time. It may have been in the next day or two that everything shut down. I remember the NCAA canceling March Madness, and when I saw, those big organizations that have a lot of money on the line cancel because of COVID, I realized that we were in for something bigger than what I imagined. So as we continue to get back to normal, the more normal things we can see and have, I think the better. So from that standpoint, I'm glad they came up with the agreement. And finally, has nothing to do with market, nothing to do with investments, but we in the Castelli household are big Batman fans, especially Silas. He loves the villains, though. The new Batman movie is out called The Batman, and we're big fans of the Dark Knight series. And rumor is that this version of the Batman is just as good, if not better, than the Dark Knight, which is one of the favorite ones with the Joker and Heath Ledger. So that is out there. It's getting great reviews. People are loving it, and I'm interested to see how it goes. I think we might try to go see it. Unfortunately, this weekend, that will not be the case because we have a basketball tournament for Leo. But if you are a Batman fan, everything about this movie appears to be good. So head out and check that out. And if we get a chance to see it, maybe I'll work in a little bit of review as well. All right, a little bit longer than usual, but I wanted to make sure we let everybody know about what's going on with Pursuit. Direct those of you who are on that desire to pursue your passions to head over there. There's more to Pursuit that's going to come, but I'm going to do something different for me. I like to build in public. I like to talk about what I'm doing and share the experience and encourage other people. I'm just going to create. I have a lot to say. I have a lot of great guests. I'm just going to create. I'm going to have an email newsletter. I won't be doing a blog, at least not anytime soon. And I'm just going to create and let the Pursuit be what it's supposed to be. And I believe that will grow into something bigger, but no expectations. And this will probably be the last time I talk about it being something bigger than what it is now. So lifespursuit.co, that's lifespRST.co, is where you can house everything. There's the YouTube channel. There's the podcast channel, both under the name PRST. And then All About Your Benjamins remains. Weekly mixtape will continue. Week in review continues. We'll have the monthly interview. We'll have the week in review audio on the podcast. And the next episode with my dad will continue as well. And periodically, if I feel like I have something to contribute in the written form on the personal finance side, I will write blog posts as well. But I might just lend it to all the other great blog posts that are out there, continue to curate that, and focus on the podcast more than the writing. So with that, I want to thank you for staying with me. I'm excited about the future of the two brands and the two forms of content and the subject matter for both of them, and wanted to let you know about that. So have a great weekend. Be sure to tune in, like, subscribe, all of those things, and we look forward to seeing you all in the next episode.